Welcome everyone to our webinar on Data Cloud. Today we have a couple goals. We're going to take you under the hood of Data Cloud so you can get a sense of what it looks like and demystify it. Frankly, I think the biggest drawback that most people have about Data Cloud is not knowing what it looks like and what's involved. So we're going to show you one of our builds for a marketing use case and also talk about one other way you can use Salesforce Data Cloud. So we have a couple slides about us, and then we'll talk through the most popular use case for Data Cloud currently, which is for marketing. We'll walk through a live demo of a particular use case that we've built in Data Cloud. Then we'll just talk briefly about the second most popular use case for Data Cloud, which is for service. We'll talk a little bit about an offering we have called Data Cloud Accelerator, and then we have questions. If you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A chat, which is in the bottom. There's a little text bubble with a question mark there. We'd prefer that over putting it in the chat, but if there are questions in the chat, we'll check there as well. We'll leave time to get to questions at the end, but we may also answer some along the way. Firstly, about Shift. We are you can go to the next slide. We are a global consulting firm, and Rick and I both work in our technology practice. I've worked in Salesforce about 14 years, but I also have had the chance to work across quite a few other cloud platforms, as well as spend some time doing strategy consulting and process consulting as well. So try to bring all of that knowledge to make sure we build great tech stacks for our clients.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. And my name's Rick. I've been working with Salesforce for probably about the last 11 or 12 years as an architect. I've been on both sides of the table as a developer and implementer, as well as a user, as a marketing ops individual. Since I've been here at Shift, I've worked on plenty of Salesforce implementation projects.
Yeah, so Shift Paradigm is a global consultancy. We bring together marketing and sales strategy advisory with technology implementation. So we not only know how your marketing and sales team should work, then we help build the technology that enables those teams as well. We are a Salesforce partner, but uniquely for us, we're tech agnostic. So we try to recommend the best platforms that are unique to your needs. So we're partners with some other tech platforms as well, and we'll even recommend platforms that we aren't partners with if that's the best platform for your company. We've had the chance to work with some great customers, and now let's talk about our first use case. So this is kind of where Data Cloud got its roots as a CDP for marketers. It's expanded beyond that, but let's talk about the kind of the most popular use case.
Yep.
So historically, marketers had to work in fairly siloed channels. So depending on whether you're trying to, do web advertising, email marketing, SMS marketing, social media, you're typically moving between different platforms to do those things. And if you ever want to, orchestrate your marketing across channels, you're typically exporting that data and either a fairly extensive data warehouse build with a BI tool on top of it, or you're using spreadsheets to kind of merge that data. Well, Data Cloud deals with that by bringing all the data natively into one platform. So Data Cloud has connectors where you can ingest data from all of these different channels without doing an import-export process. And then it merges profiles. So it can know when an e-commerce shopper is the same as a website visitor, as a social media poster, it understands that that's all one person and it puts all of that engagement data together. Then, when you have all that data, you can then act on it. So you can do some really unique, more advanced segmentation and personalization. So you'll see the 5 examples that I put here. There's many more, but if there's a cart abandoner that comes near your store, like physically near a bricks and mortar store, you can send an SMS offer to them because you have your e-com data, this would assume you have some geolocation streaming and a geofence set up. And then you can push, and you know that this person's preferred method of getting marketing is SMS. Um, that involves a lot of orchestration, but it's all possible with Data Cloud. You can see some of the other options here that you can do. I mean, you can merge visits to your app, display ads, your sales team's outreach, all kinds of use cases that you can um, take advantage of with this kind of data being brought together. Okay, so those are some general examples. Let's talk about a specific one that we're going to show you today. So for our demo, we've created a fictional company, Hydro Motors, which sells leases for hydrogen-fueled vehicles. And it sells memberships. It also sells some merchandise and some other things. There are 3 main channels involved today. We've set up more than this, but we're just going to show you 3 today. Salesperson outreaches to sell these memberships, email marketing, and then social media engagement. And the use case we're going to show you is that we want to be able to offer a $500 down payment credit and some free merch to anyone who's engaged across any of those 3 channels. So if they've talked to a salesperson in the last 3 months, or they've posted on social media with our hashtag, or they've clicked through an email. So normally that would be hard to do. And again, you're talking spreadsheets here, or some, pretty advanced, AWS scripts or things like that. But with Data Cloud, it's all point and click. So with that, Rick's going to walk you through a live demo. Just be aware, if you haven't looked under the hood in Data Cloud, there are a lot of screens and a lot of things happening on those screens, but it really does follow a flow. So there's, getting the data in from your different channels, and then organizing that data, and then activating that data back out to a channel where you want to use your custom segment to target and personalize marketing outreach. So Rick's going to walk you through that, but just be aware that there's a lot of screens. It does follow a flow, and look forward to showing it to you.
All right, thanks, Daniel. Without further ado, let's dive into the platform and first talk about how to set up Data Cloud from the get-go. Really simple. So here we are in our home org where we're going to actually set up our Data Cloud instance. They have a screen that kind of guides you through all the steps you need to do to set it up. And, assuming you've already designed and planned your rollout, you come here and it's as simple as pressing a button and your instance is created, which is, like I said, really simple. Once you got the instance created, then it's time to start connecting your external platforms.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. You set up Data Cloud inside your CRM, which is either Sales Cloud or Service Cloud. That's the most common way to do it. There are other ways to set up. We won't dive into that, but if you have a Data Cloud license, then you can go into this setup and flip a toggle. And like Rick said, a lot of work happens in the background, and then Data Cloud set up. So we're under the hood here. And Rick's going to show you a few more things in setup, and then we'll jump to the front end to start building our data pipelines.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you've turned it on and set it up, you'll want to set up, typically we'll have a Salesforce instance. So you want to connect to that. Like many orgs, you could have multiple Salesforce CRM instances, and all of those can connect to one Data Cloud instance. It's as simple as, setting up the connectors and authenticating yourself, and all of your orgs are good to go. In our example, we've also got Marketing Cloud, which is just as simple to set up. Enter your credentials, do some data source setup, and now you're ready to bring Marketing Cloud data in. Now we've talked about Marketing Cloud and Salesforce, but there's also a number of third-party platform connectors that are out of the box for getting data into Data Cloud. We won't talk about
This
all of
is
these,
where
but
this is where you bring in your other channels. There's a lot of native connectors, and in the recent months, Salesforce has been adding dozens per month. Obviously, to quote Salesforce, you want to buy based on what's available now, not based on what's coming in the future. But I know they are planning to add more connectors that are, built on APIs, but connect natively, so you don't have to do any programming or coding to get data in. If all else fails, there's a connector to AWS S3 buckets or Google Cloud buckets, and I believe Azure as well. So you can just drop a flat file, schedule a CSV file to go into those, and then you can schedule Data Cloud to go pick up that file and bring it in on a regular basis. So that's kind of a fallback method where you should be able to get just about any data from any channel into Salesforce.
yep. And once you've got that ready and set up, you can hop into actual Data Cloud and set up your data streams. So a data stream is going to be what pulls those data in from those external systems once the connectors are in place and populates your data lake objects in Data Cloud. So really simple to do. You'll notice we've got a number of data streams already set up because we've built this implementation already using all of our platforms. But I'll do a simple walkthrough of what it looks like to create one. So it's going to pull some of the connectors we've already got in place, like Marketing Cloud and Salesforce CRM. You have other options here as well. If you want to use the ingestion API to get data from any other source, you can use that as well. And there's also a Web SDK if you've got an app or your website and you want to pull in engagement data, you can set that up as well. For this use case, I'm going to walk through Salesforce because that's going to be the most typical example. And with Salesforce, there's some nice out-of-the-box features for these data streams. So once you select one of your orgs, if you've got multiple, you'll have the option to select from some pre-built data bundles. So what these are groupings of objects that are most likely to be used in your Data Cloud instance, and it'll take care of some of the data model mappings for you automatically. Now we'll get into what the data model mappings are a little bit later in this demo, but it makes things a lot quicker to get up and running. There's also
One
a
way I like to think about data streams is it's basically one table. So I've done some database work in the past, so I like to think about things in tables. Each data stream represents one table.
yeah, exactly. And aside from these data bundles, there's also what's called data kits, which is an extension of a data bundle. So it handles the mappings for you, and it also can include built-in calculated insights for you out of the box. And there's a lot of nice data kits available in the App Exchange for you to check out and make your implementation a lot quicker and smoother. For this case, we're going to do the sales bundle just to show you what building that data stream looks like. There's only a couple of steps. So you'll notice here, it's pulled in these three Salesforce objects, account, contact, and lead, and it's showing you all the fields that you can pull in. So by default, you can pull everything in, or you can select and choose just the data you care about for Data Cloud. And aside from the fields that are already in your outside system, you can create a formula field to do some transformation. Now, if you're familiar with Salesforce formula fields, this builder should look very familiar to you, so I won't go through it. But this formula field will only live in Data Cloud. It's not going to create anything in your Salesforce instance or outside system. So it's kind of nice. You can leverage this field for your segmentation and your identity resolution and map it to your data model.
Yeah, and there's three steps as data comes in. That's how I think about it to keep it clear. Data comes in and it lands in a table in Data Cloud as a data source object. And that's a table that's raw data from your source. Then you can transform it with either a formula field or some transformation steps, and it goes into what's called a data lake object or DLO. And then you map that data lake object data to a data model object, which is Salesforce's pre-built data model that standardizes everything so that Salesforce can unify data across different sources. So there's a three-step process. We were just looking at the first two. I suggest that we go straight to the mapping and show them how you map the data lake object to the data model.
Yeah, absolutely. The mapping is pretty simple. So if I go to our data model objects, you can see these are all of the objects that Data Cloud is going to use for our segmentation and identity resolution. And if you've used a data bundle, a lot of this is going to be mapped automatically, but you can go in here and customize it as deep as you need it to do. Okay. So if I look at a very simple example and map our contact data, you'll see all of these connections between all of our Salesforce attributes and all of our Data Cloud data model attributes. So the most key objects in here are going to be your contact point objects, so your addresses, your phone numbers, your emails, because those are all going to be used for ultimately your activation, and the individual object, which is what identifies a person in Data Cloud. So let's say you're bringing in a contact from Salesforce or someone from your e-commerce site, a shopper that's made a purchase. All of that needs to be mapped to the individual objects so that you can create these unified profiles later on in this demo. We'll show you how to
And the
do that.
good news is when you use one of those data bundles, this mapping is all done for you. And usually there's just a few tweaks that you need to make. So unless the spaghetti ball here was, concerning you, most of this was already done for us.
Right. And I'll just add on to that. You're not limited to the data model that Data Cloud provides. It's pretty robust, but you can customize it further either through adding additional attributes to the objects, or you can create whole new data model objects, which we did in this case, and you can control the relationships as well. So let's go to our data lake and show you some social data that we customized.
So in our case, we brought in social data straight into our CRM so that the social posts would show up on the contact record of the contacts in Salesforce. And then we brought that over from Salesforce directly into Data Cloud. And to do that, we created two custom data model objects that Rick's going to show you.
Right. So if we look at the social persona data on the left that came in from our external system, on the right, we've created a contact point social just to keep track of that as a contact point. And we've also got social posts, which would be engagement data that we are creating a custom data model object for those as well. And the mapping is really similar to how we saw the mappings for contacts and other built-in engagement data. You've got your contact mapped to the individual and your contact point social mapped to social media identifiers. Additionally, on top of this, we had to customize the relationships a little bit because we want to make sure that there's a linkage between social posts and the individual who, made those interactions. Okay, so that is the data model in a nutshell. We've covered the first step in this flow, which is bringing data in. Now that we've got all the data in and it's mapped, we can talk about actually manipulating that data and grouping it together. So from here, I'm going to move on to identity resolution. Okay, So we've created a profile already. Creating a profile is pretty simple. Let me take a step back and talk about, what this is, identity resolution. What we're trying to do here is take all of these different records that came in from our external systems, all of these profiles, and we want to consolidate them so that we have a unified profile for every individual across all of the different systems they're in and all of the different places where they've interacted with hydro motors in this example.
In our case, we brought in contacts, leads. If you have person accounts in CRM, it brings in those too. And subscriber keys from Marketing Cloud and social personas from Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook in our instance. And until you run identity resolution, Data Cloud doesn't know that those are all the same people being represented in different places. So we have 25,000 source profiles across all of those different places. And now Rick's going to show you how then we merge them and help Data Cloud figure out that they're all, lots of instances of the same person are actually one person. And this is a lot of the magic of Data Cloud happens right here because it's doing a lot of things in the background to make this work.
Right. And building it is really simple. So you really just need to set up a set of matching rules. In our case, we're keeping it fairly simple and we're doing a fuzzy name and normalized email match. So if you're not familiar, fuzzy just means if the person's name is, has different variations like Sam versus Samantha, it'll still match even though they're different. And you can even control the precision of that fuzzy matching if you'd like. And then we're doing a exact normalized match on email, which is just a normalized form of an email address and then doing an exact match. You can get pretty creative here if you want. There's more criteria you can add. This is one of the out of the box criteria, but you can match on any field that you've brought in and see what it looks like, see what your match rate is. In our case, our match rate's pretty good. We started out with 25,000 individuals and ended up with 14 and a half, which made sense. We've got a lot of people that exist in a couple of different systems. And then it'll show you this consolidation rate, which is 42% in our case. All this means is it kind of gives you a sense of how your matching rules are. If it's really low, it may be a case of you being too strict with your matching rules. Maybe you need to loosen them up. If it's too high, maybe your rules are too loose, or there's some data quality issues and you've got some duplicate issues that you're working with. I will say that it's not just individual data that you can do identity resolution on. We did for hydro motors, but you can also do identity resolution on an account-based model. So create unified profiles of businesses, company records. All right, so we've got pretty good match rules. We checked out our consolidation rate, it's good. The last step is to set up your reconciliation rules. So this just sets up what attributes will win in the case of a conflict. So we talked about the name example, Sam versus Samantha. You can come in here and say, well, if there's a conflict, maybe I trust my CRM more than I trust my marketing tool or more than I trust social media. It doesn't have to be source-based. It can be based off of which outside system was updated most recently, or even more, which one's updated more frequently. And this isn't going to delete any data, right? You're not going to push Sam out to every outside system if you choose that as the winner. This will just, choose a winner for the purposes of your activations later when you're going to be sending this data to an outside external platform. All right, so we've got our unified profiles. Now we can take these profiles and do some calculated insights and some segmentation. Calculated insights are really, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's calculations based off of attributes that you've brought in, and it can create an insight, whether it be a number or a text value, that you can take and either create a segmentation off of it or push it to, say, your CRM instance through a Lightning Web Component to display maybe a score, for example. So really powerful tool. You can either work with raw SQL if that's what you're comfortable with, but preferably, what I like to do is use the builder because it's really nice. I won't go into too many details on the builder, but I will show you what it looks like. In our case, we wanted to create a very simple engagement score, which is looking at a join between our opportunity table, our individuals, and our email engagement data. So we're pulling in all of these different tables and we're running some rules to give them points based off of what they've done. So whether they've clicked emails or they have open opportunities, we're scoring them basically. And then finally, we pop in an aggregate, which summarizes their scores and adds it to a field. And now we've got a new table. Once this is saved, we've got a new table that shows people's scores by each individual. Uh, and yeah, it's as simple as that. You can set up a schedule for these calculated insights. You can have them run every 12 hours, every couple hours, I think. Or you can just make it not scheduled at all and run them on demand.
Yeah, you have to be thoughtful about what things you schedule because this is a usage model product. It's billing you for basically the underlying AWS usage that Data Cloud is running on. So you just, be thoughtful about which things need to run on a daily basis and which things need to run on a on-demand basis, and aren't needed to be kept, evergreen.
Yep.
Um, so Rick just showed you a rules-based calculated insights that you can do. Um, and that's powerful. Common ones are lifetime value or loyalty, promotions or recency or frequency, recency, monetary, the different there's a lot of calculations you can do. There's something else we're not going to show you today, but it's called Einstein Studio. And there's basically inside of Data Cloud is a, predictive AI studio where you can build a simple AI model that looks at however many fields across different data sources that you want and then predict something. So a propensity score, like propensity to churn, propensity to buy, um, things like that you can build just here in Data Cloud, and it comes with the platform. That's something I really like a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I love calculated insights. I think even more so than calculated insights. I love segmentation, which I'm about to get into next. So we've got a number of different segments in here. I'm going to walk through our engagement one, omni-channel engaged. So a segment, uh, if you're not familiar, is just a grouping of individuals based off of attributes, and then it'll create an audience for you that you can take and activate on. And building a segment is fairly simple. Um, it's all, drag and drop. We've got your attributes on the left and your canvas on the right. So you're really just choosing direct and related attributes to, create rules for segmentation. And in our case, we want to look at people that have interacted on social in the last 3 months, or maybe they've clicked on any emails in the last 3 months. If they haven't done either of that, we also might want to pull in people that have open opportunities that haven't closed yet. So this is what we're aiming for. Um, and with that, we've got a population of about 4,100, about 28% of our total population of unified profiles, which is pretty good. So when you're building out these segments, you can just refresh to see updated numbers without having to save everything over and over again. And then once you're pretty comfortable with your segment, you can save and start publishing it. All right. So that's how you build a segment. Pretty straightforward. Now that we've got a segment built, we can move on to the last step of implementing Data Cloud. So we've talked about bringing data in. We've talked about manipulating that data, creating groupings. Now we can activate on that data. In our case, we've already got connectors to Marketing Cloud. So we're going to activate there. but I will briefly show you how to create an activation target. So if you go to the activation target screen and create a new one, it's going to look at the connectors that you already set up at the beginning of this process, and then walk you through just a couple of different steps to set up the target. Our target is Marketing Cloud, as we mentioned, and we've set it up to be connected to our, default business unit. And now we can go back to our segment and create the actual activation.
Yeah, and activation just means you send your segment to the marketing channel where you want to use that segment.
Yep. The activation itself has a few steps to set up. So basically you just have to put in your segment, which it will auto-populate if you're coming from that screen. You select which type of contact point you're activating on, which in our case is email. So we're going to select that. And then you select the membership. We're working off the unified individual, and you can add your attributes. So it's, you don't have to send everything over to your target. You just send over what you need for the purposes of, personalization, split targets, A/B testing, things like that. In our case, we are keeping it very simple and just sending over an email address, but it's, probably a good idea to send over, people's titles, their first name, just so you can work off of that data. So once you've got your target, you've added your attributes, it'll ask you to pick a schedule. So you could either refresh fully every time, which we don't necessarily recommend, because, as Daniel mentioned, this is a consumption model, but ideally, you're just sending over new people that get added to the segment, which is called an incremental refresh. So let's say this segment gets updated tomorrow to have a few more people. It'll send those new people to Marketing Cloud, and they'll go into the existing data extension in Marketing Cloud so that they can be triggered and added to an email journey. Some of those terms might be foreign if you don't have Marketing Cloud. Data extension is really just a list of people, and a journey is the flow of emails that can be sent out to an individual.
Yeah, and as we mentioned at the beginning, Data Cloud or Salesforce is adding more connectors. They've added Marketo. So if you have Marketo, you can connect to there, and this segment could feed into an active program that you have that picks up the list membership. And there's, any of your marketing automation platforms, there is a way to get the data there. Sometimes you might have to feed it through AWS to get it there, like currently we've done with Google Ads. But then you should be able to then get the audience and then the data, the attributes you need to personalize sent to the right marketing channel. Okay, let's jump. We have like a couple more slides and then we'll open it up for any more questions. Feel free to type questions you have into the Q&A button at the bottom. But then we'll also open it up. So one more use case we wanted to touch on. This is probably the second most popular use case right now. It's service. So just like you can jump to the next slide. Just like in marketing, you bring all your channels together. Now you bring all your customer touch points together for service. So imagine your service team. Let's say they're in Service Cloud. They open up, someone calls in, and immediately the contact pops up. But now not just the contact record, but also website visits. What have they purchased recently? What online reviews have they posted recently? Have they done any support cases recently, etc. So you can imagine the use cases, and then you can activate and create flows off of all that data as well. So for example, someone that just logged into the mobile app for the first time, 5 minutes ago and is calling in, you can pop up a knowledge article or a knowledge recommendation for your service agent saying, hey, they probably need to talk to technical support because they just logged into the app and now they're calling. So it probably means they're having trouble getting in. You can route differently. If somebody, was somewhat hostile on the previous call, you can route them straight to the manager. Um, you can show, recent products that they've purchased, things like that. So this does give a true customer 360 for your service agents. That's another really powerful use case for Data Cloud. Okay, let's tell you a little bit about, so one thing that we like to help people with is just getting started. I think you see from here, we just want to show you what Data Cloud's like, how you can use it. If you jump to the next slide, we have a rapid implementation offering where in 6 to 8 weeks we can help you get your first use case in Data Cloud up and running and working and delivering value. So we do that by keeping it pretty narrow. We have a workshop with you to identify the use case, and then with just a few data sources to just keep it simple and deliver value quickly and get it up and running. So that's out there. It's something we'd love to partner with you. It's likely that either Rick or I would be involved on any of those projects, as well as one or more of our other Data Cloud certified experts. Next slide. That is all we had to show you. We have, a few minutes left. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A. Um, Yes, so Kenny has had a couple questions. Answered the first one in chat. Let me know, Kenny, if you'd like to hear that expounded on at all. The second one is, what are other ways to consume segmentations? It sends easily to Market Cloud, but what about other data streams, Excel, Power BI, email list, or CSV files? Um, Yes. So you can send to cloud storage, so to Azure or AWS or Google Cloud. You can send a CSV file. In our example, we didn't actually demo this, but I have a CSV being sent to AWS in S3 bucket, where then it can be, consumed or picked up by any other automation. Um, and so with Azure, you could send it to an Azure storage location. I'm less familiar with the terminology there, but and then Power BI could use that as a data source, and you could have Data Cloud scheduled to refresh that on a regular basis, so that Power BI is looking at an evergreen data source for a segment. Same with Excel. You can then pull any of those CSVs that you've sent. You can open them with Excel. Um, Same thing with an email list. So any of your marketing automation tools should be able to ingest a CSV of email addresses. So you just kind of find out what format does your marketing automation platform want to receive, audience lists in. Is it first name, last name, email address, or are there any other fields needed? Then in the segmentation where Rick was showing that you add attributes, you just make sure those are included in the segment, and then you schedule that segment to be published on whatever basis you want, and then activate it on whatever schedule you want. And then you would need, if it's not a platform that Data Cloud has a native connector for, you would need some other automation if you wanted to have that go into your marketing automation platform on a scheduled automated basis. So you would need some middleware like MuleSoft or Boomi, or even as simple as a script to run to bring that data in, possibly using that marketing automation platform's API. It's all doable, depending on the platform and how high it is on Salesforce's priority list of building a native connector for it. It would basically tell you how easy it is, but it's all doable. Okay, great question. Great questions. Thanks, Kenny. Any other questions? Rick, anything to add to what I shared on on the questions that came in?
No, I think you covered it pretty succinctly. Maybe the only thing I'd add is there's other ways to bring data, especially into your CRM. You can build Salesforce flows that trigger off of segment updates. So if you want to do anything in Salesforce, or do anything with platform events, you can do that as well without even having to create an activation for that matter. But yeah, no, that about covers it.
Yeah, one more question. What's the difference between publishing a segment and activating? So a segment is, it's a list of individuals um, with whatever, attributes you would like to, actually it's connected to all the attributes. Activations when you pick which ones to send. So segment is a list and it has its own table in Data Cloud. It also has a change table, so how often segment activity or history. So who's in the segment, when was it last refreshed, who's added, who's all that stored in Data Cloud. That's even without sending it to any other platforms. And activation is when you send that segment to another platform. And you can have multiple activations for the same segment. So, in fact, in our example, there's one activation where we're sending it to Marketing Cloud, and there was another one where we're sending it to Amazon S3 in order to send it then to Google Ads. So we set up an automation in Google Ads that looks at that AWS S3 bucket as a source. So it's all fully automated, but it passes through AWS to get to Google Ads. So there's two activations for one segment. Hopefully that clarified the question. Okay, I see that's all the open questions we have. Now we actually will have another webinar in a few weeks that and our follow-up email that you'll get later today will have a link to that. That'll be in office hours. So it'll just be open Q&A forum for all of your Data Cloud questions. So as you're diving into it and thinking more about it, you can look forward to that. If you flip to the next slide, Rick, here's also our emails. We'd be happy to get any of your follow-up questions or any way that we can help you as you're thinking about Data Cloud. Feel free to grab our emails and email either or both of us. And we look forward to helping you think through how and if and how Data Cloud might help you achieve some of your business goals.
All
All
right.
right, give you a second to copy those emails if you want, and appreciate everyone's time today and look forward to seeing you on the next one.